You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
King County, the county that I'm recording this podcast in for you right now, it has the second highest rate of increase in homelessness in the United States. It's up 42% in the last 5 years. It's nearly doubled in the last year. I mean, these are not races you want to win. These are not stats that you want to, oh, hey, yeah, you're doing good, second place. No, this is going the wrong way. So we've got a kind of a new recommendation from former Governor Christine Gregoire. Here's what she's got to say. Here's what she is recommending. Use some federal money. Hey, let's address it this way. That's what we're going to talk about today. Then I've got another article I'm going to read real quick. But if you're new here, my name's Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies and I read the news. Talk about homelessness a lot because this is something that's going on that is impacting communities throughout the area, and communities are basically what real estate and the people who live in them in. That's what they are, right? So a lot of real estate guys want to just, hey, everything is great. This is the greatest neighborhood in the world. Isn't this fantastic? Because that's what you got to do to sell real estate. If you're like, that's the crappiest neighborhood with the crappiest house, do you want to buy it? Nobody would buy it, right? You got to sell. You got to always be selling. I mean, did you see Glengarry Glen Ross? Always be selling. Love that movie. Just some epic scenes. Would not be acceptable today to talk how they did then. Ooh, no, not good. Can't have that. All right, let's get into it. I already told you who I am. You don't probably care. Just read the news, real estate man. Okay, will do. But before I jump into the main article here, I talk pretty often about there's an elementary school up in kind of North Seattle-ish that has a homeless encampment behind it that is on school grounds that the school district is like, nope, we're not clearing that out. No, we're not clearing that out. Sweeps, those are not good. We don't want to get the homeless people away from the school. We just want them to be comfortable, live their lives. Here's something that I've been talking about continuously is like, when is something really bad going to happen and they're going to have to address this next to an elementary school? An intruder forces lockdown at Seattle's Broadview Thomson K-8 school. All right. Seattle Public Schools say they believed a propped open service door at Broadview Thomson K-8 is how a man got inside the school building on Wednesday, forcing a lockdown. It happened around 8:20 in the morning. Our kids had an online class today and suddenly it was stopped. And then later the teacher texted us that there was a lockdown, said Jeremy Hubble, the parent of a student at the school. This intruder was discovered inside the school after he startled a teacher as she was instructing students online. It's understandable there is concern about this, said Tim Robinson, who is a spokesperson for Seattle Public Schools. We are obviously concerned about how somebody could get into one of our buildings. We're not concerned about the homeless encampment on school property adjacent to an elementary school, kindergarten through 8th grade. We're not concerned about that. How did they get into the school building? That's what we're concerned about. The district says the man was also captured on surveillance video on the second floor of the school with a custodian's backpack. Okay, so he's just wandering around the school. He gets inside, steals a custodian's backpack. Now, we can't directly attribute to him to being in the homeless encampment, but we're reasonable people. Odds are that this isn't a random occurrence, right? It's probably not. The lockdown went into place. Police got here and a sweep of the building was done. About 15 teachers and staff were in the building. It was one of those remote days where the kids aren't really in school. Just a couple of weeks ago, Broadview Thomson had to shelter in place after a man living in the homeless encampment behind the school on district property had a pellet gun. Pellet gun. Not a good look. It would definitely make me uneasy if my son were here in person. So they got lucky that this happened, but this is ongoing. This kind of stuff is ongoing, and you're going to have like a major bad event happen. And that means somebody's kid gets impacted. I'm a no-go with that. I'm going to say just categorically no-go. And I don't know, pretty nuts, right? I mean, this is just kind of what we're dealing with in 2021. So here's the main article. King County's homelessness population nearly doubled over the last 2 years, growing at the second fastest rate in the country. A report released this week by Challenge Seattle, an alliance of CEOs from the region's largest employers, shows the homelessness rate surged 42% annually in King County over the last 5 years, here's something interesting. Despite a 21% annual increase in funding for homeless services over that period. So we are pumping more money into the situation and it's not working. That's categorically what I read from that paragraph. Maybe some of it's working, but it's kind of like the supply and demand issue in real estate. You got one, the demand is overriding the supply continuously. You've got way more homeless people becoming homeless. A lot of the homeless here, they didn't start out in homes in Seattle. They came here because it's an easier lifestyle here. Let's be honest. Seattle is an easier lifestyle for homeless folks, unhoused. The situation is urgent, said former Governor Christine Gregoire, the Challenge Seattle CEO. So if you ever wonder what happens to former governors, take up jobs in these kind of deals. We are at a crossroads, she said. We need to get our arms around this problem now and allow people to permanently exit this cycle. It's not just King County seeing the growth. Statewide, the number of homeless individuals grew by 27%. In Spokane, it's up by 29%, and Clark County has seen an increase of 33%. Gregoire believes county, city, and state leaders need to change the approach to the problem. She points to San Diego County and Bakersfield, California, where homelessness rates have dropped significantly thanks to a data-backed approach. Current governor would love that, based on the data and the science, even though there really wasn't much of either that we made our decisions on, but that is an entirely different podcast. And I've kind of backed off doing those because I feel like, what's the point? We're moving past that. The whole coronavirus thing, it's in the rearview mirror. Let's move on. The two regions invested significant. Now we are talking about San Diego County and Bakersfield, California. The two regions invested significant amounts of money to reverse the problems, including enacting command centers that connect individuals with services. This is what a lot of people talk about, including myself. You got drugs. You got mental issues, mental health care issues. Those are the two main causes, right, with homelessness. You kind of hone in on those. Maybe you can get your arms around this problem, figuratively and probably literally. So you got enacting command centers that connect individuals with services. The centers also keep track of people so they don't disappear from the system and re-enter the homeless cycle. Because it seems like here in Seattle, and I know in a lot of other cities, major cities, I've been following the whole Venice Beach thing closely because, man, what a beautiful area that has just gone wildly sideways. And so many of those people, they just run around. There's nobody to really keep track of them. And they're just doing their own thing. And it's making a mess of those communities. And then some people are like, well, there's no affordable housing. But a lot of these individuals, they are choosing to live that lifestyle. And they don't really want the help. I can't tell you how many articles I've read where they're like, yeah, there's housing for me. I don't want to take it because I don't want to live by any rules. Okay. All right. So in the San Diego County and Bakersfield, California, they've got a little different drill going on. And there's some accountability things there. And that's why their homelessness rates have dropped. Providing additional housing for those who are homeless is a first step. But that's not going to solve the entire problem, she said. She urges municipalities to assemble command centers with resources that get individuals the services and support they need. Financial support could come from American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds, federal funds. In a letter shared with Puget Sound Business Journal, several business leaders urged Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan and city council members to allocate both local tax sources and the federal funds to address the growing crisis of unsheltered individuals. I feel like here in Seattle and a lot of these other big West Coast cities, we're doing a lot of talking, what I refer to as the reimagining, rethinking, and we don't ever really get anywhere. And I think that's backed up, by the data in this story that even though we're spending more money, we're going backwards. You got more homelessness coming in. And so there needs to be something changed here. And the local folks, they're just kind of like, this is just the way it is. We're okay with it. And I know there's citizens out there who are doing their very best to help out and make this go. But you've got situations that are pretty wildly out of control. And I think as far as just homeless encampments, we're seeing more sweeps go on. More and more sweeps are happening since the CDC has, kind of backed off some of the stuff. Another big issue is the foreclosure crisis that a lot of people are predicting, because people are how many $1 billion in arrears in rent? It's billions and billions of dollars across the United States. Is that going to add greater numbers of people being evicted and going homeless? Probably. So you're going to have to get out in front of this one fast. And we're already way behind here in Seattle. Other communities like Bellevue, where I live in, they're all over it. They get people committed to either getting into some kind of shelter or getting into a program. And if they don't, they deal with it head on until it's dealt with. And people don't set up camps and just proliferate. That's not an option here in Bellevue. It's a no-go. It's a hard no-go. And I think that's the approach you have to have. Allowing your fellow citizen to just continually shoot up and rob the communities that they live in their tent on the sidewalk, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. But again, I'm a real estate guy, so I'm kind of more about law and order and following the rules, because when you have more rules that are followed in an area, guess how that community does. Does it do better or worse than the communities that are just a free-for-all? District 9 being a good example in Hollywood. I reference Hollywood a lot because you got to take a breather from this stuff. You got to just mentally check out. Speaking of checking out, have you guys seen the YouTube channel Aussie Man Review? Oh, that is some funny stuff. He does, it's a little risque and it's a little questionable, some of his commentary. But it's also very, very entertaining and very, very funny. He just does this commentary to the most ridiculous videos that you've ever seen of just human beings doing normal, stupid stuff. Basically, a lot of people getting hurt. But if you want to check out Aussie Man Review, it's phenomenal. And the guy's Australian, so he's one of my mother's, and half of my family's countryman. I should be so proud. It's pretty funny. Check it out. We have confidence that by investing federal resources, now we're back to our former governor here. We have confidence that by investing federal resources, in addition to the robust local resources for homelessness that Seattle has and invests today, that we can make more meaningful progress on addressing Seattle's most urgent humanitarian need, the letter states. Okay. Drug use disorders and mental health crises are the two main underlying issues, Gregoire said. Those experiencing either of these problems need immediate help. Couldn't agree more. If you've been to a homeless encampment, and most of you probably have not, and how come? Because it's awkward and it makes you feel really sad for your fellow human being. I'm not a guy, it's like, hey, this is all these people's fault. They need help. They need help. And seeing them live in these communities of just squalor, it is hard to tolerate. It's just, oh man. And yet the cities who are like, it's okay. We just want to let them do their thing. That's not compassion for your fellow human being. You need to get them some help. I'm kind of more of the, probably what's considered the old school hardline thought, which is help might be something that they are uncomfortable with at this moment in time. But how many stories do you read? If you follow these stories, how many stories do you read where you've got somebody, maybe it's a prostitute, maybe it's a drug addict, it's a petty thief, low-level criminal. And they're like, yeah, this same cop kept busting me time and time again. He was relentless. And the 14th time he did that, I was like, yeah, I got pissed off and I decided to turn my life around. I was tired of this guy hassling me. But that's kind of what it took. Not after the second time, the cop's like, all right, well, I know you're doing all kinds of illegal actions, but because I love you, I'm just going to overlook them. And, you're hurting the community by what you're doing and you're hurting yourself by what you're doing. But I love you so much that we're just going to let it go. That doesn't work. I mean, we've proven that. Proven that time and time again. It's like, handing out free needles. Oh man, I don't know. I understand people, they need to have, the ability to live their lives, but I think there's just a bunch of lines we're crossing here, specifically in Seattle. It's just crazy. And you go to some of these communities and you're like, how about the community? There's a homeless community next to our King County courthouse. It is the jungle there. I walked past it a while ago and I was like, oh, I am not even shooting that. And I literally took my GoPro handle off. I put my camera in my hand because I can hand hold it. My hands are big enough where you can't really see it. And it was scary. This is next to the King County courthouse. It was rough. I mean, you just look at the folks that are there and you're like, that's not even a street I'm going to go down. I kind of went around and I was on a street walking on the other side of a park. I could see it and visually inspect it. And I was like, I'm going to walk a little bit faster because I'm getting the F out of here. This is not good. And that was in my first couple of minutes of my walk. I'm like, oh, this is, I mean, it's literally just, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And so, you've got judges walking past that on a daily basis, getting harassed, all kinds of stories of people getting stuff thrown at them, human feces thrown at them. So it's not like these communities are just hunkered down and they're just, living their own life quietly, peacefully on the sidewalk. You got some real stuff going on, like that first article I read to you where an intruder forces a lockdown at the school. Now, in full disclosure, we can't attribute him to the homeless encampment. But hey, come on now. Let's be reasonable, right? Why is somebody looking to jack a backpack? Because they're on drugs and they're going to go sell something from the backpack and they're going to score. That's as simple as that. It's not like they're looking for a sandwich from that backpack, right? There's free food shelters. I mean, not free food shelters, but there's free food. There's free food available. You don't have to look that hard and you can get some free food. All right. So Gregoire is saying they can't wait 4 months or even 2 days to get help. She said they need that help now. So here's another way of, looking at what could possibly be done for the unhoused. Somebody's got to do something because it's not going in the right direction. Gregoire also points out that those experiencing homelessness are booked into King County Jail at a rate of 45 times that of the general population. I mean, it makes sense, right? It just makes sense. This is an economic issue, a human issue, a tourism issue, Gregoire said. It's interesting that she said tourism, but she is representing a group of CEOs. And CEOs, Chief Executive Officer, that means they run a big business. They run a big company. I am a CEO of 3 companies. They're not big businesses. They're small in comparison to probably what she's doing. But big business, tourism, if you don't have people coming in, they don't feel comfortable, how's that business going to go? Not well. Not well at all. So we are on the cusp of a lot of people, employees, employers bringing their employees back to the office. Hey, all that stuff we said about working from home remotely forever, well, we've kind of rethought it. We've done some reimagining and rethinking as CEOs on the corporate level. Here's what we've come up with. We need your rear end back in the office. That's it. People are like, oh, darn it. I thought we were going to be able to do this forever. I mean, we kind of knew that it wasn't going to be forever. And it goes by industry, right? I mean, if you are literally doing your thing, hunkered down at the office anyway, you pop your head out for like a mid-morning break, lunch, afternoon break, and then you go home and you don't really talk to people. You can do that from home or you can do that from wherever. But so much of work is based on people collaborating, whether we like it or not, just talking to other people. And you can't do that working from home. Zoom only goes so far. Talking with somebody I was working out with about the whole CNN guy who was doing weird stuff that got caught on camera. And, how much more are we going to see of that? Probably not that much because we're just going to get away from the Zoom. Going to get away from the Zoom thing, going back to work. And so all those people, here's where I tie back to what I was talking about. All those people going back to work, businesses are like, oh, we got to clean this up before they get here. It's like kids who have an enormous party. They've got a rager. They've got a big, party going on, kind of like in Risky Business with Tom Cruise way back in the day. You got to clean up from when mom and dad come home. They can't find out that the glass egg is broken. It's got a crack in it. Can't have that. So employers are cleaning up, City of Seattle cleaning up. And you've got this conflict of you've got increasing homelessness. You got businesses bringing their people back. And after a year, some of those streets don't look too hot. They didn't look too hot. So Seattle's doing its thing. Portland, it's just getting way worse down there. And that's just based on all the videos. And I haven't been there for a while. It's based on the videos and the stories. And a lot of the input I get from you guys, the viewers and listeners who send me stuff, and they're like, Portland is having a tough time, stating it mildly. Employers are concerned about the well-being of their employees going back to the office. Huh. Shocking. Who would have thought? More importantly, she said, homeless individuals have a 20-year shorter life expectancy. That is something I think about all the time. It's like I was reading an article this morning. It was a 71-year-old guy down in California. He had diabetes and severe arthritis. He's in a wheelchair and he's living in a homeless encampment. And my thought was, man, how long can that guy live like that without getting the kind of care that he probably needs? That is not a long life expectancy. I mean, just probably not eating well. He's not getting medication when he needs. Maybe he's got some mental issues. Who knows? But that's not a way to let your fellow human being live, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're talking about putting some programs together that make sense, might have a little tough love involved. It's kind of the direction we got to go, I think. So you have a 20-year or shorter life expectancy if you're homeless. You can't put money on that. Can't put a price on that. Now is the time and now is the moment to address this, she said. There is no reason to be discouraged, but we need to keep working. Keep going forward. That's all you can do. Sometimes these situations seem hopeless, but there's a lot of people out there that are contributing to try and make it go. And then there's other people who are like, you shouldn't be doing jack. You should be letting the city do that. You should be letting your, the responsible public officials who handle that, you should be letting them do it. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. And everybody's got to do what they think is right. And for me, it's kind of talking about it, going through the options. And situations like where you got a homeless encampment next to a school, I'm like, no, I don't think so. No, that's a no-go. And just letting these encampments just kind of, explode until they don't. And that's when you've got a sweep come through, and then there's a big clash between the homeless advocates and the police, because the police get brought in to basically clear them out. Just a huge mess. Some of this is due to the coronavirus. Granted, CDC said you can't sweep the camps. And I get that. But it's gotten pretty out of control, and you're going to have to do something now. That's why we're talking about it. So talking about different approaches. Will this approach? I mean, so you get some extra money and you start going down the roads that other communities have. Is that going to work? Does that work in Seattle? Does that work for the people of Seattle, that very vocal minority who says, let the homeless people do their thing. They're people too. I don't know. But it's an issue. It's a real issue, especially for people living in these communities who are normal people. And I have a lot of you guys that email me and say, yeah, I live in those communities, and man, it's difficult. Don't want to kick our fellow human being down by sweeping them, but also we can't use our parks. Can't take little Johnny and Susie to our parks. So what do we do there? Our taxpayers' money is going towards not only taking care of the homeless people, but maintaining the parks that we can't use. Double whammy. So I'm open to any suggestions people have. I will read them here on the Seattle Real Estate Podcast, because we're not always about direct things about real estate. Hey, inventory is down another 13% over the last 8 weeks. Just stats like that. You can only have so much of that. And you're like, oh, that's terrible. Nobody wants to hear that. That's not entertaining. That's not fun. A lot of this stuff isn't. Homelessness isn't either. But I think you got to deal with it head on and talk about it and figure it out. And it's what I do. So that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. But I do a little real estate too. We're selling some homes. Crazy. It's a crazy market. It makes no sense. If I would have said, 14 months into a pandemic that homes would be selling in record time, I would have said, okay, you must be smoking some of Seattle's finest, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird time. So many things have gone sideways with the Rona. Real estate, it's done pretty well. Just a weird deal. All right. That's enough for me. I'll catch up with you guys soon. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you then. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.